Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Reviver Season 1, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, multiple facets and different places to start with this episode. First and foremost, let's start off with Abraham's side of things, where he is trying to discover and understand what caused the Reviver situation. He seems to be one of the few people trying to have a more pro-Reviver standpoint, because even the person that's working with him, I don't know if she's also from the CDC or whether she is someone from the town working with him, or the case may be. She's very like anti-Reviver, because using the Arlene example to kind of say like, oh, this represents everyone, which is very close-minded, because you're like, oh, you're just assuming this one person who's done a bad thing kind of encompasses all. That language can be very dangerous, and especially because you're when you look into the metaphors and stuff like that, it's like, well, this is a minority group of people that you're kind of ostracizing and just assuming the worst of because of their circumstances. Like, yes, it's a little, unnerving, obviously. It's easy to be like, well, people coming back from the dead, you'd be a little like, ugh. But just the rhetoric that kind of gets spread around, and like the kids at school, that girl Jordan, when they're like, oh my god, my mom said like those who come back are like demons or something like that. And then Cooper was like, yo, your mom needs to stop talking like that. And even Jordan is actually really sad when she's looking at her locker and all those like rest in peace and all those messages and things left her in her locker because she died. And she's like, I don't know whether I'm supposed to keep these up or take them down. Which Cooper was like, no, they're nice because that means people are really sad that you died. But she's like, but then why are they like not happy that I'm back, So that is that sad thing of like, kids asking the poignant questions. But it's the thing of like, yeah, parents have this rhetoric that, they don't care that their kids are picking up and they're not thinking about it, because I'm sure that kid who was like, hey, Jordan, let me see if you can heal, and he's going to attack her with a pencil, like, I don't think his parents are going to care too much. They're going to be like, who cares? It was a Reviver. It could be that type of rhetoric, and it probably won't be that big of a deal. Hell, even the teacher was kind of like condemning Cooper, but then it's like, at no point did you tell Dana the reason why Cooper got in trouble, why he did what he did. It was like, no, I did it for Jordan's sake because they were trying to attack her to see if she can heal. At no point did he bring that up to Dana, because Dana's hearing it for the first time from Cooper. So that's also like showing you where people's biases lie. He's like, right, dude, I'm trying to do the best I can. These dangerous Revivers. It's like, dangerous. That cute little girl who's just minding her own business, who hasn't bothered anyone, and other people are bothering her. He's like, Dana, I'm trying the best I can. It's like, no, you're not trying as hard as you could, because I get it. You're afraid. You've got your own concerns because no one really has any answers, and it's turning into a fever pitch of people more and more being afraid, not knowing what to do. Especially when you get into like, I know I jumped the shark from the Abraham stuff, but I'll circle back to it. But when Dana took her home, and her parents are so unnerved by her, she walks up to, can I get these cookies? And they're like, They can't even say anything to her, look at her. And it's really hypocritical, because they're like this religious family, and they prayed and prayed because they did everything they could to have a child, and then they couldn't, and then she was their miracle child, and then she died, and now that she came out, you would think a religious, but I guess that's the duality of religion. There are the people who are going to, well, because I'm sure it looks satanic for people to come back, as I know the person that can come back is Jesus. Once again, I'm also coming from I know a little bit about theology, Christianity, yada, yada, yada. And I know, like, I'm just referencing Christianity in this regard, but, like, theology as a whole, I know bits and pieces about some religions, but I'm not well read, especially on Christianity, so. I don't know if, like, other people reviving is kind of as much of a issue. I feel like it's supposed to be just a Jesus thing, but I'm not sure. But it's just, my point is, you would think as a religious family, you'd be more okay with it. You'd look at it as a miracle to have your child back. But then, like I said, the dual side of it, you could look at it as like, oh my God, this is something demonic, which they're looking at it as, because it's like, hey, this isn't my child. She came back wrong. And the question is, well, we never got into it, but like, how is she wrong? Is she acting differently or something like that? And then Dana kind of leaned into him and tried to be like as calm as possible. But she's like, you've had it too good for too long. Because she's like, you're so focused on like, you never thought about like, what if she was suddenly taken from you or something happened and you didn't really know, and then she came back? You'd be so damn grateful for that. But here you are like being like, you're because sadly there are people who aren't lucky enough to have someone they love come back, especially because your child died so young, and it's like that's such a regrettable, heartbreaking situation. You have your child back and you won't even show her an ounce of love. It's like maybe start there, at least trying to love that little girl. Granted, Dana could always end up biting those words later on when she ends up being like evil or something, but I don't think that's going to be the case, because finally circling back to Ibrahim, he ends up, there ended up being some scans run on Arlene's head. I guess like the little bit of her scalp that was still left, or tests they did before she, came back at the hospital. But whatever the case may be, they studied her brain. Abraham wanted to go to check out her home where her daughter and son-in-law were living, where she was living with them, and he wanted to go with Dana, but then I love Wayne showing up like, I'll go with. He's like, yeah, sure, great. Better than McCreary, who literally is up there digging in his nose. I'm like, would he even be authorized to, like, is he actually a cop, or is he like more of a station worker or something like that? Not to demean him or anything, but I'm like, is he an out in the field type of cop, or does he work in an apartment? Because he's not wearing a uniform, so I'd assume not. But I guess he still has authority because he works at the precinct. Either way, Abraham's like testing the water, be like, all right, is there something here? But then ultimately he goes in a room and we find out like Arlene was chained up and stuff like that. You're like, Jesus Christ. At first I was like, well, maybe that was about after she revived and she was acting a little crazy. Maybe. But then Abraham ends up finding out the son-in-law was poisoning her, because even at like his wife's funeral and stuff like that, which does confirm it is 2008, because I'm like, I brought it up last episode, I'm like, am I crazy? And like, oh, like the dates are what they are, because I thought it was interesting, because like I said, people had flip phones. I was like, I mean, those have kind of come back, but these are like old school flip phones. Either way, it turns out that the son-in-law was poisoning her. He was giving her mercury. But the weird thing was, like, he was like, yeah, my wife was so distracted taking care of her mother, she wasn't doing her wifely duties. Even Wayne was kind of like, oh, that's weird. Like, yeah, I was like, at first I thought that whole sequence was a dream. I was like, that's weird. But it's like, no, that was real. And he really said that. And turns out he was poisoning his mother-in-law, and it did something to her brain. And as we know, when the revivers come back, they come back as they died. So whatever state her brain was in is what happened. So that's why she's acting the way she is. Isn't because being a reviver turned her into this. Her son-in-law murdered her, and then there's also the reason why her brain's in the condition it is. So like I said, we don't know if the whole being chained to the bed thing, I'm assuming that's after she came back as a reviver. But it's still like, because it's like a jealousy thing of, killed his own mother-in-law because he was jealous that his wife wasn't doing her duties as a wife. You're like, wow, he was not a good dude. This is also the same dude that pulled a gun on Abraham, because he's like, this guy's snooping. It's like, well, he's here to investigate, yet you put a gun on him. Wayne kind of handled it diplomatically, because it's like, hey, any other weapons you got here, Bob? Because, combining all of that with what happened at the funeral, where Arlene came in, Bob is trying to send her back, like, oh, Satan, 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 and then got his neck snapped. Wayne tried shooting her, but that does nothing, and she climbed on top, and I guess it's like, once again, she was in, like, her mind isn't right, and so now she misses her daughter. So I didn't know what the whole baby thing was about. I guess because her mind is so warped, when she's looking at the baby, she probably sees her daughter Terry. So that's probably what it was. Like, her mind, like, it's almost like so much damage has been done to her brain. It's probably like almost the equivalency of maybe like Alzheimer's or dementia. Like, her mind is kind of gone in that capacity. So, but then Blaine shows up and casually, like, says some words and then burns her, but didn't kill her, because they already said, like, by the end, Arlene's already in a process of healing. It's slow, so you have to probably do some very, very extensive, irreparable amount of damage. Once again, my go-to thinking is you probably have to split the body into pieces to, like, keep it from regenerating. That's what I'm thinking, but there's no definitive way to kill them. And they can't even hold Blaine, because it's like, even though he did what he did, but it's like, that's not enough to stick. I'm like, it's not? But I guess it's like the only person he really hurt was Arlene, and even these, she's not technically, I mean, because there's also the laws of like, well, did you murder someone? It's like, well, she was already dead and she's already coming back to life and regenerating, so it's such a sticky territory, law wise. But now there's a situation of the governor shows up. She came because Wayne last episode reached out to her about his plan to basically make a camp to hold the revivers, which Demare and Ibrahim are vehemently against. Because it's like, yeah, you're going to, like, he's dealing with people who are already riled up about all this, but it's like, you're just going to divide the town even more. And it's like, the governor's like, all right, we won't necessarily go to the camp thing yet. You'll tag and track every reviver, because it's like Arlene shows that your registry isn't good enough, that there's plenty of people who slip through the cracks, so you need to track down and tag everyone, and then if people step out of line, then we do the camp situation. It's only a temporary thing until we can find a more viable option or something like that. But it's like, once again, locking people up in camps has not done well historically, and even being like, oh, these I forgot what was the exact word. Internment camps was the term that Abraham used, which the governor's like, I wouldn't use that word. I'm like, you might not want to use that word, but that's what this is, so it's hard to say. Like, Wayne definitely believes he's doing the right thing, because like everyone else in town, he's scared. It's something he doesn't understand, he doesn't know, and he's scared, and he's coming from a place of fear. Once again, it's human nature to be scared, but it's also about trying to understand things, because he's so flippant and willing to write off Ibrahim when Ibrahim was like, oh, I think this is what happened. I don't think Arlene was violent by nature because she's a reviver. I mean, it kind of happened because she's a reviver in the regards of her brain was in this state when she died, and when she came back, she was still in that state, but it wasn't her fault. It's not just being a reviver by nature makes these people go crazy. Once again, Ibrahim might come back to bite his words in that regard, but for now, this is where things stand. So Wayne has some leg to stand on, but it's a theory he's not even willing to even comprehend, because he's like, yeah, you're judging a man who's not even here to defend himself. And it's like, well, Abraham found the stuff in the guy's room, in the same room Arlene was in, so I guess karma came back to bite him in the ass, because she ended up killing Bob. But I mean, it's sad that she ended up, in her like craze, ended up killing her daughter, even though it's like, well, sadly Bob ended up being the one. He should have died first and been the only one that died, but sadly, she ended up killing her own daughter in the process. But either way, going back to Wayne, he kind of looked like he was kind of like, yeah, I'm one, but also he doesn't feel too good about the victory, because he recognizes how effed up it is. But once again, in his case, it's like, I'm trying to do the best I can with the circumstances being what they are. There's a lot of pressure on me as the sheriff to have all the answers, and I don't. And to me, this is the best solution, that I can keep everyone safe while keeping these revivers away, because I am trying to help them, but once again, it's still fear playing a role in the decisions I'm making. And once again, his anti-reviver sentiment, it's like, how long are you going to keep that up? Because the moment you find out your daughter is one, how are you going to react then? Because then we're going to see you be a little hypocritical, because you're going to have a certain standard you want revivers to be by, like, oh, this and that, you're worried about them. Will you keep that same energy with M? I don't know if that's going to be better or worse. At least you won't be a hypocrite, but it's still going to make, if you treat M the same way as everyone else, it's like, oh, you might not be a hypocrite anymore. You might not be a hypocrite. You might be, hey, standing 10 toes down with your belief. But it's also like, man, that's your own daughter and you're not cutting her some slack. So maybe that's better than being like, oh, actually, I'm going to treat you different because you're my daughter. She's always been like the frail one because of her illness. So I've always been very protective of her, so I think maybe that still could be applicable. But I could definitely also see Wayne being the type that's like, well, daughter or no daughter, you're not my daughter, my M died, yada, 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 so on and so forth. I could see him having the same perspective that Jordan's parents did to some extent. So I'm really curious to see. Like, my initial thought was he's going to be the former and kind of like, oh, treat her differently. But I'm like, there's also a possibility he not. It's interesting, too, because the episode ends with Blaine being like, oh, we're going to be on the same side. And he's like, I'm never going to want the same thing you do. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but Blaine might know what happened to M, so he might know that M is a reviver. So that's probably what he means of, oh, we'll be on the same side because I'm going to hold this over you. I'm like, unless you want everyone to know your daughter is a reviver, you better co-sign and go along with everything I'm about. Or once again, Wayne just becomes that radical. We'll see. I mean, because that would be an interesting situation, because it would, Wayne and Dana aren't already, like, they're already not on the best of terms. They already kind of bump heads. So this divide would just kind of create a, even larger divide between them on where they stand in the grand schemes of the revivers. We also saw at the end of the episode, Ibrahim was looking at one of the samples. It's from like a creek or something. And when he looked at it, it seemed like whatever was in that dish is growing. So I guess it's like something that a sample that should have been dead was revived and it was still growing. So whatever it might be connected from a science standpoint to the revivers, what might be part of it might have something to do with the water. I don't know if that's the same water that Dana was in. I'm not Dana, sorry. That M was in, or maybe it feeds into that place that M woke up in, or she could have easily been forced to drink that water or whatever that source is. There's so many questions. Speaking of what happened to Dana, we do have two sides of the investigation. We have Dana and Rhodey working together to figure stuff out. She's got these little glimpses of stuff from her memory, and she's trying to piece it all together, but it's all fuzzy, and she's working with Rhodey to figure it all out. We learn a little bit about him. He cut his hand from slicing up an avocado, but he was like, yo, I'm too punk to try and go to the hospital or whatever, to the doctors, and it got infected and killed him. He's like, if I had gone to the doctor, taken some antibiotics for 7 days, I'd be alive currently. And it's like, damn. It is, I mean, it's interesting how modern day, even something as simple as that is the reason why you get got, But it's like, oh, going to the doctor, that's not punk. Keeping this wound is punk, yeah. And it's like, oh, that ended up killing you. Ironically, he got to use that as part of his stage performance, where he slices his chest and he's digging into his skin, and he's just like, oh, that's. I mean, to me, that's more metal than punk, but it's kind of in a similar enough family, but still. People at the show really enjoyed it. Even M did. At first, she was like, "Oh, bothered by it," but then they're like, "Oh, yeah, fuck yeah!" So, because once again, I brought this up last episode. What's the whole thing about Dana feeling more? Not Dana. I'm sorry, I keep doing it. M feels like there's someone who understands her that she can talk to about this stuff. Because she even talks to him about yeah, my family thinks I did something to myself and I can't remember. Well, her sister thinks so, as well as her ex. It's funny, she kind of considers that. She probably thought of it as a real relationship, but it was just probably a fling on his side of things. But it's yeah, they both think I did something to myself. But then she pieces it together, and that would have made sense. It especially considering how fragile her body is. Probably that fall would have done that to anyone's body, but even more so her body. It's when I woke up, my body was fine. My bones aren't broken or shattered. They would have. So obviously I wasn't pushed or jumped, because once again, your body's in whatever condition you died in, whatever condition your body is in when you come back as a reviver. So I was like, I didn't even think about something like that. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing to be no, she didn't. That's not how she died. So she was most likely murdered, which the beginning of the episode covers that a little bit on the Dana side of things, where continuing where the last episode left off, her roommate says yo, they went to go buy some drugs from the Czech family, but M went upstairs claiming to go to the bathroom, which she might have really meant to, or maybe she planned to. Whatever the case may be, it's sad that she's either was probably going through massive withdrawals, and she ended up grabbing those pills and running. That's why she has that big bag. It's jeez. And Dana's my sister went steal from a drug dealer. It's wow, you really don't know your sister, then. It's it's sad, but it turns out, yeah, that's absolutely what happened. So now Dana's investigating the Czech family, because it turns out one of the sons, Anthony, who's the big brains of the operation, his mom's a part of it and stuff like that too, but... Well, now that's my misunderstanding, because she's selling art. Maybe her whole thing is no, I'm actually am buying art, but the sons are the ones running the drug operation, and she is completely unaware. But I wasn't actually clear on that. I thought the point was she's kind of the face of it. It's kind of like a front, like her art and everything is the front for them to actually sell you drugs. I thought that was the thing, but I'm not sure if I was misunderstanding that. But yeah, the older brother Anthony is out because he was out when the town got sectioned off. So he's stuck on the outside, which begs the question, was he on the outside because he's running because he did something or what? And so Dana went to go visit, and the brother Andrew there kind of like threatens her because he was like, oh, like stay out of my family's business, and another Cypress won't end up dead or something like that. There'll be one more dead Cypress or something. The moment he said that, I was like, he's not talking about M. He's talking about their mom, because that's how I initially took it. I figured that was going to be the case. Well, so neat little Easter egg. The comic he like showed, or the hack slash comic, is a real comic. It's been on a mini. I think I looked it up on Wikipedia. There was multiple publishers listed. So, but it does seem like it was at Image at one point in time. And one of the writers for the writer for it is Tim Seeley, who also wrote the comic revival that this is based off of. So just thought that was just kind of a neat little, like I said, Easter egg situation. Dana ultimately ended up finding out about Rhodey and M, because M left the place with Punk. It's like, oh, some like bad boy. It's like, no, like a literal punk. He's in a band. And it's like, I told her about no musicians. And it's like, oh, I guess it runs in the family. So I wonder, I'm assuming that's supposed to be a shot at Dana because of the way Dana responded. So it's like, oh, either way. So she goes to the show, and both like Andrew and Adam from the Czech family are there, and they were about to go after Dana, but God, I keep doing that. Sorry, M. Turns out they were completely unaware that, because especially when Dana showed M's photo, because she recognizes Dana because like Dana and Andrew went to the same school, but she didn't recognize M as her sister, because I guess like not too many people saw M, or maybe it's been so long that they just don't remember. They didn't recognize her, which I think is kind of interesting. So like Andrew and Adam had no idea that she was like Dana's sister, that she was a Cypress. They were just going after her because like, yo, this is the girl that stole drugs from us. Would they have actually done something to her is unclear. It's kind of a moot point because Dana showed up and arrested Adam, and now it's like, hey yo, I'm gonna cut a deal with your brother Tony. No, you're not gonna call Andrew, you're going to call Tony, who's outside of town. He's going to be pretty upset with you getting arrested. That's why you're reluctant to call him, but I want to kind of make a deal. So she makes a deal. It's like, I will let Adam go if you end the bad blood between your family and mine. It's like, you guys killed my sister, but they're like, whoa, we didn't kill her. Wait, she's a reviver? So that's kind of an issue. Even though Tony was like, hey, yo, you have my word, there's going to be no bad blood. The fact is that they now know your sister's a reviver is going to come back to bite you. So either the Czech family is going to get into some trouble because either some other cops or specifically your dad starts causing problems, and they'll probably try to like hold the whole M being a reviver thing over either Dana's head to get what they want or over Wayne's head, or maybe both. We'll see. It just, you feel like you could see like the domino effects of like Tony being like, no, you have my word. It's like, well, you can't take him at his word. You get, the moment he has an opportunity, he will screw you over just to kind of take back the power and leverage. But we'll see. Maybe he is a man of his word. But once again, up until a certain point, the moment it becomes advantageous to use that will probably be, whether that's Anthony's choice, whether that's just Andrew or Adam's choice, probably more likely Andrew, because he seems like the most like crazy of the siblings. Like, yeah, like Adam's willing to kind of crumble really quickly, but it seems like Anthony and Andrew are the bigger issues. But I don't know, like, because I'm really curious to see like what kind of happens on that front. But now she knows, okay, so the Czechs had nothing to do with what happened to M, so back to square one in that regard, until Rhodey and M were hanging out on the bridge. And obviously we got to see a lot of the scars that M has from her surgeries. It's like, right, one from her leg where they had to put a plate there. Hey, I have a metal plate in my leg too. The lower part, like where my part of my leg and my ankle. But also she has some stuff on her back too. It's like she had to have a lot of surgeries because she even says her body isn't as frail now as an adult as it was as a kid, but still, like, she had to grow up not much hug. Like, people loved her, sure, but it's like you couldn't get that physical, like, love and affection because people are too scared about breaking you. And it's not as bad as an adult, but it's still pretty bad. And Rhodey's like, yeah, just like live a little. You know, ironically enough, for M, dying and coming back kind of got her to live life to the fullest in a way that it never could before, because the exhilaration of, like, getting hurt and then immediately healing, there's kind of like this lightning that courses through your body because of it. But either way, when M falls off the bridge and she gets a flash of that night and she remembers seeing Blaine. Now, whether Blaine directly had anything to do with M's death, whether he just happened to interact with her that night, it's unclear. There's so much missing in that time for her, but she has a clue, which I think is interesting timing. That, I mean, they cut the scenes purposely like that, where it's like just as M's remembering Blaine was there, Blaine is getting released by her dad, and he's making his declaration of a holy war, which I'm like, I don't know, man, shouldn't you stop the guy who's literally talking about a holy war? But it's like, that's not enough to really arrest him again, because it feels like, well, that's him kind of inciting violence and saying like, oh, we're gonna fuck shit up. But it's like, well, holy war could be meant figuratively, so it's like you can't really hold him. I guess, I don't know. I don't know the law enough to know the legality of like him saying that while still in a damn police station. But some very, very interesting developments all around. It's going to be interesting to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.